are excited to share with you all. Again, my name is Patrick. I'm on the marketing team here at Hasbro, and I'm joined by three amazing guests. I'm a fan myself, so just kind of tingling, so excited to be on virtually with them. I'll let them introduce themselves, and then we will dive into things because we've got a lot to talk about with all of them.
I guess I'll start since it looks like I'm up in the corner. D. Bradley Baker here. I voice the Clone Army as well as the Bad Batch.
I guess I'm next. Hi, I'm Michelle Ang. I am the voice of Omega in The Bad Batch, and thanks Hasbro and Patrick for having me. I'm dialing in from New Zealand.
My name's Simon Cassianides. I play Axe Woves in The Mandalorian. It's just such a pleasure to be here and to meet you guys.
Would love to just hear kind of what experience you've had with fans outside the US, in New Zealand, in Greece. Dee, I'm sure you've traveled as well. What kind of has been the global reaction from fans to the fact that you guys are Star Wars celebrities?
Yeah, I feel like I'm very new to the family. I actually only did my very, very first convention, which was Celebration earlier this year, which was on American soil and the stronghold of the sort of Star Wars family. So I was absolutely blown away by just how many people traveled into Anaheim, California for that. And I'm looking forward to engaging with some of the other international fan bases, but actually to date, I haven't really gotten to meet that. Yeah, we haven't traveled that much because I've only started my journey in the family since the pandemic, really.
I haven't had the pleasure to see the international affection that so many have for Star Wars. I've just seen it full force here on American soil, as Michelle says. Yeah. And it's really warm and fun and overwhelming to experience that firsthand.
I had the great pleasure of doing my very first Comic-Con in London in July, which was the first time that I actually got to meet the world of the Star Wars fan base. Yeah. And there was a panel actually with myself and Katie Sackhoff, and I just couldn't believe the scale and the warmth and the age range. And then there was a fan group of Mandalorians dressed in all individually made. The cosplay was insane, and they came and they presented me with a plaque, and I was overwhelmed. I mean, you think you understand the scale, but then when actually you come face to face with it, it just blows your mind. I mean, it's just so humbling. This whole process is just it's incredible. I love Star Wars.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. So is it Omega or Omega? Because I will say I always thought it was Omega. When Michelle, you mentioned Omega, I didn't want to say it wrong because that's the kiss of death in the Star Wars world. So I said Omega. I heard Dee say Omega. Can we resolve once and for all? Is it Omega or Omega?
However she says it is how you better say it.
I mean, this was something that sort of came up early. I think, with my native New Zealand accent, the E's read differently. I refer to myself as Omega.
Absolutely.
I think I've seen some pretty amazing fan T-shirts that have been designed where all of the Bad Batch names are spelt out phonetically in my Kiwi accent, which is cause for hilarity. But for the most part, I feel like the rest of the characters we've encountered in the universe call her Omega.
Interesting.
But I say Omega.
There we go. I think we've resolved it here. From now on, it's Omega. I at least will always refer to it as Omega. Would love to also just hear, what are some of your favorite memories from Bad Batch Season 1 that seeing this toy evokes? Like, now that you have this, what scenes would you love to see this toy kind of recreating from the show? I mean, well, first of all, Omega finding the Zygerian energy bow in the episode where, the Bad Batch are on a mission to bring back Moochie. I just, it was always interesting that she, as a young figure of the Bad Batch, didn't really have any, artillery or any way to help the Batch, and so it was really cool when she sort of gravitated towards this energy bow. And then in the next episode, there's that wonderful scene with Echo teaching her in Sid's parlor, and she's so bad at it in the beginning, and she gets really frustrated and
I love that scene where sort of Echo is teaching her about focus and about like shutting out, you know, distractions, and you sort of get a glimpse of the growth path that that Omega is on with her brothers, and how she has so much to learn but so much potential. So yeah, that definitely evokes that little scene for me. And then also obviously all of the fun characters that Omega falls in love with, you know, in season 1. I think she's quite an empath, you know, despite the, you know, the gruffness of the Rancor, or the sort of prickliness or the oddness of all of our universe monsters, so to speak. I think she always seems to find a way to empathize and create a connection with them, which often proves to be helpful in some of their stickier situations. And then actually this mask reminds me, you know, Hunter and Omega have a really special bond, and that episode was really early in the series where Omega takes sort of initiative when she loses Hunter for a moment, and, you know, takes his blaster and tries to prove herself and prove her worth to the batch by finding the capacitor for their ship. And I think it's quite nostalgic to think, you know, in the beginning she was really fighting to earn her place within the batch, and I think as the series progresses, it's lovely to see how they accept her, and she sort of accepts her own place within her brother's team.
Since you voice so many clones in the Clone Wars and now Bad Batch, your characters that you voice are immortalized with many different characters in many different forms. How do you approach such different characters? Obviously, it must be challenging, right? Because it's not just different characters. They're all clones of Jango Fett, so they're all similar, but obviously they have such different characterizations. How do you approach those different characters?
Yeah, well, fortunately, it starts with the scripts, which are very good. That you can't really have a good show without good writing, and the writing on these is very clear. It's an interesting story. The characters have arcs that play out that are very individual and interesting, and that's where you start when creating a character that you want to feel different from the rest of the characters, which is really the key, especially with the clones. The Bad Batch is a little easier because they're a little more distinct from each other than the regular clone. But you know, and I've said this before, is, you know, when I look at these characters, it's gratifying to feel that I'm a part of it in creating the voice and the vocal performance and the acting that underlies what is really a collaboration of so many people, from the writers, the director, and the entire team of these brilliant artist technicians that bring these characters to life, that breathe them into the amazing world that draws you in and connects you in. So it always, I have to approach it with some humility. I will give myself some credit for being an important part of this, but it really feels like I'm in there with the team of the people who create these, of the, you know, hundreds of people that bring this thing to full cinematic existence. I showed this before. This is me when I was 13 years old. My mom and dad made me a Jawa costume.
That's amazing.
So I'm an old Star Wars fan. I've always loved it, and I mean, it connected me not just into Star Wars, but also John Williams. The soundtracks really connected me into music and programmatic music, as you call it, and it just brings such a full plate of awesomeness that you can carry with you through your life.
Awesome. I will just say, if you still have that Jawa costume, we've got a cosplay contest when we go to San Diego Comic-Con. So maybe next year, dig that out of the attic and give that to someone who can fit into it. But that was great.
I'm not sure if it would fit. I'd be a tall Jawa, but not that tall.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would do better to do cosplay as a Jawa than I would as a clone. I've had people occasionally ask me, "Are you gonna cosplay as a clone?" And I always say, I'd look less like a clone in clone armor than I do just walking around. Yeah. No, I am not going to cosplay as a clone.
That's great.
Maybe a Jawa.
Would love to hear, are you guys collectors of anything, whether it's Star Wars related, toy related, or something completely different? But just kind of, what do you collect in your own lives?
It's odd. I'm not sure if it's directly linked to what Dee was saying, but since I've been involved with the Star Wars world, all of a sudden there are these figures turning up around the home that my partner is saying we may need a separate room for.
I could probably be said to collect Halloween masks because I'm very big on Halloween with my creepyyard.com Halloween yard creation site. That's sort of my little hobby. And then I collect books. I like having books in my little library that I haven't read. I think for a lot of people, a library is sort of a graveyard of books that you've read, and they just kind of sit there. And I like having all of these books that I haven't read, that I want to read. They're like these friends that I haven't met that are like calling to me as I walk past the library or the stack of books, you know, in the front. And so I like to be surrounded by books that draw my curiosity. That I like as well.
Dee and Michelle, so obviously we saw Hunter. He's the first of our Bad Batch in our vintage collection line. Who do you think from the Bad Batch should come next? You know, Michelle, who does Hunter need most by his side?
Oh, that's a really tough question. I mean, I kind of think that he needs his quote-unquote ally/nemesis. Like Crosshair feels like the next sort of strongest choice. What do you think, Dee? Someone for Hunter to like butt heads with, but ultimately, you know, it's a very complicated, you know, relationship based on love. I think Crosshair would be the natural.
Crosshair can wait from the top of the mountain while Hunter does his work.
And I want to play too. I don't want to be left behind either. Come on.
I'll be fine.
I know. I was going to say we need Wrecker so that, like, you know, Wrecker and Omega's friendship is pretty. Crosshair or Wrecker.
Which of the clones is Dee most like? Either from the Bad Batch, you know, elsewhere. Which of the clones is he most like?
Oh, this is okay. Which of the clones is he most like? Well, I'm going to have to cheat because I feel like it's really an amalgamation. Like, I think it's pretty apparent that Dee has this wonderful, like, optimistic, childlike sense of humor. So there's a strong Wrecker element, I think, to Dee. But he also, I mean, come on, Dee. Dee's always the first to crack a joke. But I think that you've got like the heart of Hunter, but you're nowhere near as broody as Hunter. I don't think you don't really wear that energy. But Dee has been an incredible mentor and friend to me as this is my first voice acting role. I'm more of a live action actor, and he's just been such an incredibly generous friend and mentor, and leading me through, you know, this massive experience. And in that sense, I feel like he's very much like Hunter, or maybe Echo, because Echo is a little less reticent about being a parental figure. And then we always have this funny saying that tech is easy breezy, and I think there's an element of Dee that's nothing's ever a problem for you, Dee. I feel like you've got tech's easy breezy, sometimes quite dry humor, like assessing a situation and just dropping a humorous little one-liner that lands with great insight and
that's funny.
clarity.
That's fascinating to be psychologically unpacked like that.
Oh, sorry.
To apply it to the show. No, I love it. I appreciate it. I would only aspire to be anywhere near one of these warriors.
That's awesome. So there's a little bit of Dee in all of them, although she didn't say Crosshair, which was good.
He's in there too, I'm afraid to say, but you gotta keep him, you know, at a distance.
You guys, you know, so talented. Like, obviously, you know, we've touched on this a couple of times, but you bring such joy to people around the world, myself included, and just so kind and gracious to spend the time with us. And I should say as well, if you are, you know, at home, fans, if you're kind of doing the time zone clock here, it is ridiculously early for Michelle and ridiculously late for Simon, and it's right after lunch, you know, for Dee, and you know, as people get sleepy after lunch, but just again, so gracious and kind in giving your time at these crazy times, and yeah, I've had a blast. Thank you so much. This is really a pleasure.
Thanks so much, Patrick.
Great pleasure. Simon, it's great to meet you. I can't wait to see what's coming up.
I hope to meet you all in person in the same time zone soon. It's been such a pleasure.